This video will expose the 10 brutal laws the elite use to multiply their wealth and dominant systems, while the rest stay broke, distracted, and dependent. If you do not master these habits, you will forever trade time for crumbs and dignity for survival. In a world ruled by appearances, power, and deception, poverty is not just an economic state. It is a consequence of ignorance. And unless you understand the hidden codes the elites live by, you will remain a pawn, while they feast at the table of control. Look around you. The crowd, the noise, the blind movements of the masses. They wake up each day not to build their future, but to obey someone else's command. They chase routine, praise stability, and worship comfort. But I must tell you a brutal truth: the herd is not just poor in wealth, it is poor in thought. Most men live not by reason, but by imitation. They adopt opinions from their neighbors, fears from their fathers, and values from their television. They outsource thinking, just as they outsource labor, and by doing so, they hand over their power. A man who cannot think independently is a slave, even if his chains are invisible. The elites, those who rule, who shape economies, who bend laws to serve their legacy, they do not think like the masses. They do not chase approval, nor are they addicted to applause. They ask different questions. What does this situation serve me? What leverage can I gain? What weakness do others not see? They use solitude not for loneliness, but for clarity. They distrust groupthink, and often they are hated for it. I once wrote that a prince must learn to deceive, to manipulate appearances, and to control perception. But that begins with a deeper truth. He must first escape the illusions the masses live in. He must see while others only look. And to see clearly, one must detach from the herd's values. Most people chase stability, secure job, a predictable paycheck, the illusion of certainty. But security is the opiate of the poor. The elite understand that wealth lies in volatility, in risk, in navigating chaos, not avoiding it. The crowd avoids uncertainty, and in doing so, they also avoid opportunity. They would rather be comfortably broke than dangerously free. Observe how the herd behaves in crisis. When the market crashes, they panic. When fear spreads, they retreat. When opinions shift, they conform. They are ruled by the emotional tide. They sell low, buy high, trust late, and regret often. Why? Because they do not possess their own mind. They borrow one from the collective, and the collective is rarely wise. It is reactive, not strategic, hysterical, not rational. Independent thought is rare and costly. It will isolate you. It will label you. But it will also elevate you. The man who thinks for himself sees opportunities before others, sees threats others dismiss, and creates paths where none seem to exist. He can move in silence while the herd makes noise. He can predict while the herd reacts. That is power. But independence is not merely rebellion. It is not simply doing the opposite of the crowd. That is still reactive. True strategic thought means understanding why the masses behave a certain way, then choosing a response not based on emotion, but on advantage. Sometimes it means going against them, sometimes ahead of them, but never with them. When you consume what they consume, believe what they believe, and fear what they fear, you become indistinguishable. You become predictable, and a predictable man is an exploitable man. The elites do not rise by following trends. They rise by creating them. They don't wait to be told what is valuable. They decide it, because they think first, act second, and appear last. Do you want to stay broke? Then continue seeking validation from the herd. Continue arguing over distractions. Continue measuring your worth by what they applaud. But if you want to escape, if you want to rise, you must become a different breed. You must learn to think in solitude, in silence, in discomfort. That is where power is born. In the shadows of unpopular ideas, in the daring of original thought, in the clarity that only independence can breed. Let me give you a warning that kings whisper into their sons' ears and emperors etch into the walls of their secret chamber. So, to depend on one stream of income is to wear a noose around your neck and hand the rope to another man. The modern man, so proud of his job, so loyal to his paycheck, lives under an illusion. He believes that if he works hard, shows up on time, and pleases the right people, he will be rewarded. But what he fails to see is this: the hand that feeds him also controls him. The man who depends on one stream of income is not free. He is tolerated, and he can be replaced. The elites do not think this way. They have built empires on diversification. They do not rely on one employer, one client, one investment, one platform. They plant seeds in many fields so when drought comes to one, another yields fruit. This is not greed. It is survival. It is war strategy applied to wealth. Ask yourself this: if the company you work for vanishes tomorrow, how many days until your home is in danger? How many weeks before your pride is swallowed by desperation? The answer to that question tells you exactly how much control you truly have. And for most, it is none. They live check to paycheck not because of fate, but because they have built their entire life on a single pillar. And when that pillar falls, their life crumbles with it. You must understand, relying on one income source is not just risky, it is strategically foolish. You are putting your financial future in the hands of a structure you do not control. You are trusting the stability of a system that was not built for your freedom, but for your service. The rich, those who sit behind the curtain, have engineered the game this way. They want loyalty. They want dependence, because dependence breeds obedience. But imagine a different kind of man. A man who has built several streams of wealth, not grand empires, but intelligent systems. Perhaps a business that earns while he sleeps, investments that grow while he thinks, skills he can sell in multiple markets, intellectual property that works without his presence. This man is not invincible, but he is untouchable. He cannot be silenced by a single employer. He cannot be manipulated by a single threat. He moves through life with leverage, and that leverage is priceless. You see, the elites understand something very simple. Money is not just a tool. It is insulation. It is protection. It is time. And the more sources you have, the more you can say no. No to bad deals. No to toxic people. No to degrading work. The man with one income cannot afford to say no. The man with many can afford to be ruthless. You must begin to see income as a battlefield. In war, no commander sends all his troops down one path. He splits his forces, opens multiple fronts, creates confusion for the enemy. Your financial strategy must mirror that. One source is predictable. Predictable is vulnerable. And vulnerability is fatal in this world. Even the wealthiest families of history did not keep their treasure in one vault. They spread it across banks, across continents, across trades. They married into power, invested in art, bought land, funded wars. They turned money into an organism that could not be cornered or collapsed. That is why they endured. That is why their names are etched in the pages of history, while others are forgotten beneath dust and debt. But do not misunderstand me. This is not about hustling endlessly or working 7 jobs. That is still servitude. This is about building smart systems, streams that flow even while you sleep, grow even while you rest. The key is not more effort. The key is more strategy. There is no dignity in financial dependence. There is no honor in surviving on crumbs while others feast behind closed doors. If you desire true freedom, economic and personal, you must multiply. You must design a life where your income cannot be held hostage by any single master. Because in this game, the man with one sword dies first. The man with many lives to fight another day. Time, my friend, is the most abused currency in the hands of the poor, and the most guarded treasure in the vaults of the elite. The masses trade it like fools, selling the only asset they can never recover. They clock in, clock out, obey a bell like cattle, and then wonder why their lives never change. But let me make this clear. Time is not to be spent. It is to be invested, negotiated, weaponized. You see, a man's fortune can be stolen, his home burned, his title erased. But if he knows how to use time wisely, he will rise again. Because time is not just hours and minutes. It is the foundation of power. The kings, the emperors, the merchant princes. They all understood this truthing, that whoever controls his hours controls his fate. The poor rent theirs. The powerful sell theirs selectively, at a premium, if at all. And here lies the tragedy: the common man sells his time for pennies to build another man's dream. 8 hours here, 10 hours there, a weekend lost, a life evaporated. And for what? A wage that barely covers survival. He is paid just enough to stay alive, never enough to be free. He is told that hard work is noble, that sacrifice is honorable. But what he is never told is this: working hard without strategy is slavery dressed as virtue. The elites do not trade hours for money. They trade results for money. They build machines, systems, companies, technologies, people that operate without their presence. Their time becomes rare, and what is rare becomes expensive. Understand this: if anyone can buy your time easily, your time is worthless. And if your time is worthless, then so are your choices. The secret lies in leverage. 1 hour should not equal 1 paycheck. 1 hour should plant seeds that grow into income again and again. A video that earns while you sleep. A product that sells without your hand. A brand that opens doors long after you speak. This is how the elite make time compound. They not just work. They multiply their effort through tools, delegation, and scale. But the man who works simply to survive will never understand this. He spends his free time escaping. He drowns in entertainment. He fills his nights with meaningless pleasures, believing he has earned the right to rest. But rest is earned through progress, not exhaustion. Time, when used poorly, becomes a noose disguised as freedom. Ask yourself this: if you had to charge the world for every hour of your life, what price would you set? If your answer is low, then your value is low. Not because you lack worth, but because you do not protect your time. The elites protect it like gold. Meetings are filtered, access is earned. Distractions are killed ruthlessly. Every minute must justify itself. If it does not move their power forward, it is cut. That is how empires are built. Not through effort alone, but through execution guarded by discipline. And do not believe the lie that you must trade your time forever. You only need to trade it intelligently, long enough to build leverage. Learn skills others will pay a fortune for. Build assets that detach your presence from your income. Use your early years not to impress others, but to construct systems that pay you long after you've left the room. That is how the powerful buy back their time. They give it to the grind once, and then they demand tribute from it forever. Time must never be given away cheaply. It must be sold with intention, guarded with violence, and spent only where there is return. Look around. How many people do you know who treat their time with that level of reverence? Very few. And that is why very few are truly free. Because freedom is not just the absence of chains, it is the ability to say, I will not give you this hour of my life unless it multiplies me. The world applauds generosity. It praises the giver, the one who sacrifices, the one who opens his hands without hesitation. Let me tell you something that no saint will say out loud. Generosity, when unmeasured, is not virtue. It is vulnerability. And in the hands of the unwise, it becomes a weapon not against others, but against the self. In the courts of kings and the halls of power, I have watched men give everything to gain favor, only to be discarded once their value was drained. I have seen merchants donate fortunes to win the love of the people, and still die forgotten. I have seen warriors share spoils with the weak in hopes of loyalty, only to be betrayed the moment the gold ran dry. The truth is this: generosity without purpose is not kindness. It is weakness dressed in noble robes. You must learn to weaponize your generosity. Every coin you give, every favor you extend, every opportunity you offer, it must serve a strategic purpose. Does it buy influence? Does it bind loyalty? Does it plant a seed that will return tenfold? If not, you are not being generous, you are being used. And the world does not pity the used. It forgets them. Understand this: the elite do not give because their hearts bleed. They give because their minds calculate. They sponsor causes to gain control over narratives. They support men not out of friendship, but to build networks of obedience. They offer kindness not to be liked, but to be owed. Every act of giving is a transaction, every gift a silent contract. The masses are taught that giving makes them morally superior, that to expect a return corrupts the act. But I tell you, giving without expectation is how you become a pawn. It is how kings make use of men like tools. When you give blindly, they will take everything and never return even thanks. Why should they? You trained them to expect without cost. You trained them to see your worth as disposable. Even mercy must be strategic. When a ruler shows mercy, it is not because he is soft. It is because the cost of blood is too high or the reward of restraint is greater. He pardons not out of guilt, but to bind the enemy's heart. He gives land not from generosity, but to make his vassal dependent. That is the mindset you must adopt. Do not give unless it builds something in return, a bond, a benefit, a future weapon you can wield. This is not cruelty. This is clarity. If your resources are finite, and they are, then to give them carelessly is a betrayal of your own ambition. Generosity must have targets, timing, calculation. Give when it will echo in the halls of power. Give when it places someone in your debt. Give when it tilts the chessboard in your favor. Do not give to feel good. Give to gain ground. And let me warn you, those who take without gratitude will always ask for more. They will not respect your giving if it is constant. They will see it as weakness, as foolishness, as something owed. And the day you stop, they will turn on you. Because your generosity never bought loyalty. It only fed entitlement. The wise man gives rarely, but when he does, it is remembered. The fool gives often, and his giving is soon forgotten. Even in personal relationships, this law applies. Give to a lover who brings peace to your mind, not chaos to your soul. Give to a friend who returns honor, not excuses. Give to a student who multiplies your wisdom, not drains your time. Strategic generosity is how legacies are built. It is how kings inspire armies, how leaders shape nations, how mentors live forever through the greatness they helped shape. But generosity wasted is how dynasties crumble, how fools lose kingdoms, how strong men become empty. Your energy, your time, your wealth, they are not infinite. And so, every act of giving must be a blade hidden in silk. It must be felt as kindness, but operate as conquest. Only then does generosity rise above sentiment and become what it was always meant to be. Not charity, but strategy. Fear is a currency far more powerful than gold. It controls behavior, stops ambition, and builds invisible walls around opportunity. The masses are ruled by it. They worship safety, cling to comfort, and retreat at the first sign of uncertainty. But I will tell you the truth that no school, no temple, no politician dares to teach wealth is not found where it is safe. It is found where others are afraid to go. The average man sees risk and freezes. He hears words like recession, collapse, disruption, and he runs. He sells low, panics early, hides behind routine, hoping the storm will pass. But while he cowers, the elite move. They are not blind to fear. They study it. They listen to the tremble in people's voices. They watch the exits. And then they walk directly into the fire that everyone else is fleeing. That is how fortunes are made. You must reprogram your relationship with fear. Do not run from it, chase it. Behind every fear you hold is a gate. Behind that gate is a room where wealth sleeps. But only those bold enough to enter find it. The ones who hesitate. They are left outside the castle walls, peeking through the cracks, begging for scraps from those who had the courage to step forward. Understand this, the rich do not avoid risk. They manage it. They move not recklessly, but relentlessly. They see a collapsing industry not as a warning, but as an invitation. They see blood in the streets and smell opportunity. Because where others see chaos, they see leverage. And that is the fundamental difference. The elite have trained their minds to profit where others retreat. That is not instinct, it is discipline. You cannot build wealth while chasing guarantees. A guaranteed salary is a leash. A guaranteed pension is a cage. A guaranteed path is a prison dressed up as peace. The most lucrative opportunities are always uncertain. They are unpolished. They come with no guarantees. But if you know how to navigate them, if you can breathe through the anxiety, you emerge on the other side not just richer in coin, but in character. The man who builds his life around fear will always be ruled by those who don't. Look at history. Those who created dynasties were not the most talented or even the most intelligent. They were simply the ones who moved when others froze. They bet on ships no one believed in. They entered foreign markets while others mocked. They backed innovation while others clung to the past. They risked humiliation, failure, and exile. And in return, they gained kingdoms. Even today, in this modern world of digital tools and global access, fear still dominates the minds of the poor. They fear starting. They fear losing. They fear judgment. They fear standing alone. And so, they stay broke. Not because there is no path forward, but because they refuse to walk it alone. But the elite, those who rise, they understand that solitude is part of the journey and fear is merely a test of will, a test of hunger. You want to be rich, then stop waiting for the moment to feel right. It never will. The market will always look dangerous. The world will always seem unstable. There will always be risk. That is the point. Your advantage lies in your willingness to move anyway, to step into what others avoid. That is how you build empires, by walking into the rooms that fear keeps most people out of. Fear is not the enemy. It is the filter. It separates the dreamers from the builders, the talkers from the doors, the poor from the powerful. Every time you see fear, whether in business, investment, or bold decisions, you are standing at the doorway to power. Most will never walk through. But if you do, if you train yourself to move forward not in the absence of fear but because of it, you will find what most men only fantasize about in control: freedom, and the kind of wealth that doesn't shake when the world does. Now you have seen what most will never be told. These are not habits, they are weapons. 10 laws the elite live by while the masses rot in ignorance. They do not teach you these truths in school because obedience is easier to control than power, and a man who understands these laws can no longer be ruled. He becomes a rival to the system itself. You want freedom? Then understand, freedom is purchased through discipline, ruthlessness, and the rejection of illusions. You must unlearn the lies they fed you, that safety is noble, that generosity is always good, that loyalty to a paycheck is loyalty to self. No, these are chains disguised as virtues, and if you do not break them, they will bury you poor, forgotten, and used. This world does not reward innocence. It rewards intelligence sharpened into strategy. It rewards those who walk away from the herd, those who multiply their value, guard their time like gold, give only with purpose, and strike where fear keeps others frozen. These are the ones who rise, not by accident, but by design. So I leave you with this: stop asking for permission to be powerful. Stop waiting for approval to chase what you know is yours. Adapt these 10 laws as ideas, but as a code. Live them, enforce them, build with them, and soon you will no longer be among the many who beg for wealth. You will be among the few who command it.